It's time to go beyond the headlines, cause I don't put in overtime just so I can headline. Okay, now it's Fox Sports, I'm live with Renee. Going hard every day, sports rapping every play. Different segments for your favorites, coming at you daily with positive vibes. Yeah, we some game changers. Basketball, football, soccer, with different interviews. You never know who may pop up. Listen, only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines with Renee Washington.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Beyond the Headlines. I'm your host, Renee Washington. As always, excited to have you guys here because we're bringing you inspiration, great stories, great journeys. You get to learn, you get to laugh, you get to listen along as we're bringing you some really exciting guests that are doing tremendous things in their careers. So today is no different. On this episode, we've got a fellow Philly native in Aaron Warrick, the CEO and co-founder of Reju, sharing a little bit about his experiences that led him to this point and all the exciting things that he's got going on moving forward. So that being said, we've got an exciting edition of Beyond the Headlines here for you today as we're getting into some positive vibes, some great messages with our fantastic guest, Aaron Warrick, coming up in just a moment.
What's up? It's Microphone Rocky, and with everything going on right now, we can all use a lot more positivity in our lives. Thankfully, we got Renee Washington here with Positive Vibes Only.
All right, so you heard the man's name. You heard the great things he's doing. CEO and co-founder of Reju. It's rejuvenating, it's uplifting, it's teaching, it's inspiring, it's so many things. Aaron, welcome to the show. Nice to have you here.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me. How's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. At the time that we are having this recording, of course, by the time the show actually airs, we will know who actually won Super Bowl 57. But as of the time of this recording, it's an exciting time for Philly sports, with the Eagles getting ready to take on the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So I could not complain. Life is great. I've got my Eagles green studio. We are ready to go in. How are you, though? How are things?
I'm great. I'm excited for this weekend. Go Birds. This is going to be a fun time, so I can't complain at all.
Yeah, and as a Philly native, do you have strong Philly connections to the Philly sports teams?
Absolutely. I'm from Philly. You have no choice but to be.
All right. So through and through, all Philly sports fan is what?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, Aaron, before we dive into learning a little bit more about Reju and all the work that it does, I want to get to know you a little bit more and give our listeners an idea of who you are. Who is the co-founder, one of the many faces behind this great program? And so growing up in Philly, having a chance to attend, you went to George Mason, you went to Lincoln University, being right in this area and having an opportunity to get your career started that way. What has it really helped teach you? And I want you to start by just sharing about who you are and then also how it has helped shape who you are today.
Sure, absolutely. So once again, my name is Aaron Warrick. I'm a Philadelphia native, Southwest Philadelphia. I'm a mental health advocate, co-founder, speaker, a real estate investor and engineer, and I'm sharing opportunities that inspire, engage, and motivate emerging leaders in entrepreneurship and STEM. I am the co-founder CEO of Reju. Reju is an economical, engaging, and comprehensive mental health and wellness platform that serves as a personal guide to mental, physical, and emotional success. We provide peer-to-peer therapy connections, bridging the gap between end users and licensed practitioners. Reju is something anyone can utilize and be implemented in any ecosystem. We're equipping people to live their best lives by providing them with bite-sized pieces of wisdom, guidance, and inspiration, while utilizing AI and machine learning to provide a personalized wellness experience to amplify outcomes. Because wellness looks different to you, Renee, than it does to me. Now, a little bit about my journey. So I grew up in Southwest Philadelphia, went to Bartram High School, and I'm sure too many people familiar with that who's listening. And one thing I can say is that my mother, my grandmother, my aunts, they really instilled in me like the importance of like academics, after school programs, and kind of making use of the resources that you do have. I didn't have much growing up, but I learned to take advantage of the opportunities that I did have. So she will always have me in these STEM programs, these college after school programs. I did some things with NASA as a student, and that kind of, piqued my interest in STEM and entrepreneurship. So, as I prepare for college, I used to learn how to code a little bit, practicing on MySpace back in the day. And I used to make all my friends' pages. So I learned how to code.
MySpace.
Yeah, I learned how to code pretty early on. And, they used to pay me a couple bucks to make their pages. And that started into like a web development business. And I'm like, wow, I really like technology and kind of entrepreneurship. So when I got to Lincoln, I was able to expand on that.
First of all, I apologize. I didn't say Reju because for whatever reason, my brain just went there. Sorry about that. But Reju, as you talk about, is an extension of just who you are, the foundation and fundamentals of what was instilled in you from a young age. So I just love hearing that connection of just being eager to learn more, having opportunities to get hands-on experiences. Those are so needed. And that's something that's lacking. And I can't overlook the fact you said MySpace, because MySpace back in the day was ahead of its time, the start of the social media era. But for you, it's also a chance to start learning coding and start having a chance to be a web developer and get that hands-on experience. While most of us were out worrying about who's in our top 8, you were out figuring out how to code and how to create MySpace pages for people. So was that the type of student and just, growing up type of person that you've always been, where you've been someone that was doing more than your peers and motivated to do extra versus just, like I said, the rest of the teenagers of us that were just figuring out which song to have play on our playlists when people came to our MySpace page?
No, that's a great question. I've always been, the person to go the extra mile. That's just been in my spirit. I always had a competitive spirit. I always said, hey, either you're going to give it your best or just don't do it at all. So I've always lived by that in everything that I do, really strive for excellence. I didn't realize that at a younger age. I just thought like, hey, I was smart and just get the work done. But, growing up, it's interesting because I wasn't always the top academic student, meaning that, growing up in the streets of Philadelphia, as many people may know, it can be rough. So, I was sometimes out in the streets with friends. We did play sports and, hang out late. But one thing I did do was make sure I got my work done and my grades were up to par. And, I'm grateful that I had a friend circle that supported that, because some people, when you're younger, they would shun you and make you kind of feel, like it's not cool to be a nerd. But, I did have a friend group that really promoted me to kind of like strive for excellence. So, I kind of contribute that to them as well. But growing up, I've always been that guy that's like, hey, we're going to do this. Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, there is nothing wrong with that. I always tell people growing up was absolutely a divergent, which is the term that I coined after the movie came out, because I was one that never fit in with what everybody else was doing. I was like the kid that was too black to hang with the white kids, too white to hang with the black kids, too athletic to hang with these people, too much of a nerd to hang with these people, and just fit in my own lane. And there's nothing wrong with that. Unfortunately, we live in a society that tells us we have to be one thing or the other, and you can pave your own way and make your own lane that you can work in. And it's okay to accept and embrace what makes you different, what makes you unique. For you, that motivation of not only being a great student, but wanting to learn more and get hands-on experience. I was also a very good student myself. I can empathize. It's tough growing up when you have this intrinsic motivation to want to continue to do more than the bare minimum. But as an adult, you see how it translates into your career. And I know I can say how it has helped in my career to have that extra motivation to want to be the best, but also just raise the bar for yourself. Mm-hmm. So you did exactly that. You talk about the work that you've done in engineering. Well, you do have a bachelor's from Lincoln in computer science. You also studied electrical engineering at George Mason University. And all of those experiences, I'm sure were challenging, of learning engineering, but what exactly have you been able to use in engineering that has translated into web developing, the technology that you work with today in Reju?
Oh, that's a great question. I always tell my buddies, who's like getting into their careers and trying to identify what works for me as far as a profession. I said, the best thing is to develop your own profession. So think about it as your life. You have a utility belt and you're grabbing all these tools and resources and putting it in your utility belt. And as you go for these jobs, you can pull out and say, hey, I have background in programming, or, I have some experience in project management. And now you can start to formulate, your own kind of lane based off the skill set you have. So I always wanted to be an engineer. At Lincoln University at the time, they didn't have an engineering program. So computer science was the next best thing I was good at as far as programming. So I got the degree. I went out into the world, applied for some internships, and I got my first internship at a natural gas company, and that turned into a full-time role. From there, I worked as a junior level engineer position because they looked for someone who had computer science background. So I was able to learn engineering based off of my computer science background. So that got me into the door of engineering. And from there, I studied under some of my mentors, my managers and supervisors, and then went out, got my master's degree and took my test, and then became a licensed engineer. So it was just a matter of sometimes life has a way of, pitting you not where you want to be, but where you need to be. So, I always wanted to be an engineer, but I thought I was going to do it traditional way. But the way I did it was a little, it wasn't the way I thought, but I still ended up being one. So that's how that happened. And in regards to Reju, one thing I love is that mental health is something that's very personal to me. Many people in my family have suffered from chronic mental health issues. I've had friends and relatives who unfortunately had committed suicide. So I said, hey, this is important to me. How can I help support this cause and advance the needle forward with the skill sets that I have? So, I said, what, let's develop a platform where we can really tap into, AI, machine learning, predictive analytics, and try to provide preventive measures to mental health and wellness issues. And that's where the engineering aspect came in, and automation and computer science, and learning how to develop a really strong product, and roll that out and scale that. So those are how the two married together and kind of created the story of Reju.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm sorry to hear about the fact that you have had family members that have passed away in their struggle with mental health issues, and, that you have had such a strong personal connection to the topic that has led you to be inspired and motivated to do more and to be a part of more. And something that you said there that was a really powerful line that I wanted to just reiterate is how, life really doesn't move you to what you want, but sometimes what you need. And what you need may not be something you even realize in that moment. When you're going through life and you're trying to figure out why things are happening, or, what's next, and timing and all these other factors that we always try to predict. But life works its way out the way it's supposed to. And it's always something that makes sense looking back, not looking ahead. And so when you have those types of experiences in the moment, it's tragic, it's heart-wrenching, it's sad. But now looking back, I'm sure you can say it has helped make you who you are today, and has helped directly in what inspired you to want to create Reju, and wanting to have a platform to make sure other families don't have to go through this. So let's transition. I know we've talked a lot about your background and who you are, but let's talk about Reju and talk about exactly what it's doing to provide those spaces where people can have, wellness and support and mental health, and just a lot of different topics that you are covering within the programming that you're providing a holistic approach around. So now, what is it? Share with those tuning in about, a little bit more of what they can expect when they're searching for Reju and what you guys are providing.
Sure, absolutely. So Reju think of it as a one-stop shop, all-encompassing mental health and wellness platform. As you know, 17.3 million Americans suffer from depressive disorder and stress. Long-standing systemic health and health inequities impact minority groups, people of color, and underserved and disadvantaged communities. So what we wanted to do was provide a platform that can provide a low barrier of entry, that's affordable, that's economical, that people can have resources to mental health and wellness solutions. So some of the things Reju offers is access to a variety of professionally vetted content and publications. That's videos, that's guided meditations, that's inspirational quotes and messages, broker conversations with practitioners with the ability to chat one-on-one or schedule one-on-one sessions through a personalized mental health plan. We have a CRM platform to really enhance clinician to patient matchmaking, so empowering the practitioners on our platform to attract new patients, and improve communications with the existing ones that they have. We also have a cool thing where we have incentive structure. So if you are a wellness expert and like to make wellness-based content, you know, and you have a platform, you can get paid also for sharing your content with the people that you have. So, you know, post, share, and monetize professionally vetted content and publications. There's 24/7 progress tracking. So, you know, to promote growth and see how you're doing over time. We have like really cool self-challenges to really kind of say, hey, I want to drink a glass of water a day, or make sure I make it to the gym at 8 p.m., you know, to make sure that I'm following my New Year's resolution goals. So we have self-challenges that you can kind of, you know, keep yourself in check and make sure you're hitting your goals. But those are some of the things you can expect. We're launching the next iteration of our app end of this month. So we're truly excited for that. And yeah.
Oh, well, congratulations on that. That is very exciting. And we'll have to get into more about what's next with the new, you know, programming that you're adding in with the launch. But as you talked about bridging the gap, you know, what inspired you to take the initiative to actually create Reju? You know, it's one thing to have this idea, and I'm sure you can agree. I can always speak on the fact I've had many things I'm doing now that at one point were just an idea that I was hesitant to take that next step on. You know, when you look back, what helped you realize the time is now? I have this idea, I have this vision, and I have to put it into fruition. I have to make it happen. What was that for you?
Man, I love this question. So my fellow co-founders, Dante Witt and Greg Wilson, we all went to Lincoln. And after graduating and going into our careers, you know, dealing with relationships, trying to find that right job, you know, you're dealt with the stressors that life throw at you. And during those times, we would send inspirational messages, say, hey, you know, here's my self-care tip, or, you know, here, check out my therapist or practitioner. So we would send recommendations, and we were like, hey, we need to develop a platform around this and kind of share our teaching. So we did that and developed our first iteration of the app back in 2019. And we got a lot of good feedback, right? Ironically, around that time is when a very close relative of mine had started to suffer chronic mental health issues. And I'm like, I don't know if this is a sign or what, but that added like passion and conviction to the work that I do. I said, all right, I got to turn this up a little bit. So that's how that idea came about with my fellow co-founders, how we kind of started Reju. One other thing too is that like I've always loved representation. So like this is also not just about, you know, providing mental health and wellness resources for individuals, but also representing Black entrepreneurship, Black in tech, you know, in spaces where we're not always occupied and we need representation. You know, Blacks in startups and raising rounds, and, you know, how do we kind of scale an organization and show that we're capable of actually doing this? So there's like a lot of different reasons and factors as to why I'm doing that. And it's kind of like a big mesh of all of that. You know, so people can look up and say, hey, other young men or even women from Philadelphia, like, if he done it, I can do this too. Like, I know so many people who say, hey, I want to make an app or start a business, and, you know, they'll come to me for advice. And I'll always say, like, the last thing you want to do is years pass and you look back and wonder, what if I started this business, what would have happened, right? Mm-hmm. And I've always been in a position to say, I never want to leave any stone unturned. So I always want to take that risk and see what happens, right? So that's kind of, you know, how we got into Reju, because when my co-founders reached out to me, I said, let's find out. We don't know what's going to happen, but let's find out. And the great words of Kobe Bryant, rest in peace.
I love that. I love that direct connection of, you know, just the Mamba mentality of there's no time like the present to try to, you know, go after what you want. And there's no reason to wait. I always tell people, like, I'm never going to be this young again. I'm also never going to be this, you know, this is the oldest I've ever been, but I'm never going to be this young again, more importantly. And so, you know, why not now? If you have the bandwidth, if you have, like in your case, you have people around you that you guys were all each other's support team and providing that encouragement and had the ideas, why not take that next step and see what you can do? And then when you have, I'm a very spiritual person. I always say, God, sometimes if you don't catch up onto those little signs, will give you a much more in your face sign that you cannot ignore. And so when you have these situations hit close to home, that is sometimes that extra nudge you need. Like, come on, it's time to do it. It's time to make this happen. It's time to launch Reju. It's time to create something that's bigger than yourselves. So I also enjoy the fact that you shared it. It's not just about you. As we've been sharing, you are a co-founder. You are one of many people behind the app and behind this, just the vision of what Reju is. And so also having a chance, representation, friends that become, I'm sure, like family, you know, all these different areas that Reju is helping with personally, besides, of course, on the mental health and wellness side, How important is it to have something that is bigger than yourself and does provide a lot of those different necessary areas that someone from Philadelphia or the next generation or a little Black boy or girl, or even just being able to wake up and work alongside friends? How important is it to you to create something that you can build that is so connected to who you are?
It's so critical. One thing I'm big on is really mission driven social impact, initiatives. And I've always been like that. As how can I utilize my skill sets and what I'm good at to help advance, the world and make a difference. You never know who's watching or, who's coming up after you or who was inspired by you, and sometimes people may not express it, but, when the time is right, they will. So it's very important that you do that. Also, additionally, for me, I always want to feel like, I want to leave a legacy, like, years from now when they bring up my name or the work that I've done, I'd rather look at my impact, right? Rather than the numbers or how much money I made and all of the other quantitative, things to look at. Like, I want to know, what impact am I bringing in? Who am I serving, right? Who am I uplifting? Who am I creating opportunities for, so they can kind of pass this down, regardless if it's in mental health and wellness, if it's in, engineering and computer science, if it's in entrepreneurship. Like, those things are important. And when you build your relationships on that type of foundation of sharing and giving and providing opportunities and mission driven and helping people, you start building really genuine relationships. And these are people you align with because they align with those same things. I know people who have all types of organizations doing great work, and we're like, how can we help support each other, right? Each other's mission and kind of really take this and grow it. And, it's the most inspiring thing, right? We're inspiring each other. We're inspiring the world. It's very critical and important to me. So, I love that question because it's the reason why I do the work that I do.
Yes. And I know that's how we originally got connected. Just
absolutely. I was going to throw that in there.
Having similar visions and work that we're doing. And that alignment piece is so, so critical for anything you're doing. I always say it's got to align with who you are as a person. It has to make sense, because otherwise, when challenges and different things are thrown your way, it makes it that much harder. So, you're able to create something that aligns with you and work with people that are also in that same understanding of the need to create something bigger for future generations, and, to be able to help so many other people. And that's powerful. That's very powerful. You also mentioned that there's a new, launch that's coming up. Of course, by the time this airs, we should, depending on the timeline of when this launch is happening, this episode will be dropping. So tell us a little bit about what's next. You said 2019 that you created Reju, and there's been a lot of exciting things that have happened since, but you're not done yet. More to come. So what's next in the future that you can share with us?
Absolutely. So we're truly excited for what's to come in 2023. So some of the things we've been working on, we actually just secured a large partnership with a huge HBCU launching spring of this quarter. Also, we just secured a partnership with a workforce development company in South Central PA, servicing their returning employees in the workforce. And that's also launching spring of this year as well. Two very big partnerships, and we're excited for. We've also been lateral networking with other mental health and wellness organizations, and we have some partnerships and initiatives that we're collaborating on that will be also released as well. Currently, right now, we are in our seed round, raising $2 million, and we have received additional investment commitments, and we're close to closing our round. Not there yet, but we're still pushing. But that's always excited that we're still finding people to support us and love the work that we're doing. We've expanded our team. We've hired some really talented individuals, highly driven, and really built an impactful, relationships with industry leaders, and really established a strong presence and kind of getting our name in the digital health space. So we have a lot to come this year. Reju has a very strong marketing campaign. We have a lot of initiatives and fun activations we got coming up. So we can't give too much too soon, but just know a lot of great things to come.
Okay, nice little teaser there, just laying out some of the things. But for more, of course, people have to check it out, because you're not giving the whole plan. You're just giving a little bit of a spoiler. But it's great to see the expansion. It's great to see the direction that things are going, and how positively you're able to now hire people, bring more people on. And also just with that allows you to have more of a reach. And I have been seeing more and more, what we know in general, there's been more and more conversations around mental health. But there's also been more and more access, more ways to be able to access through apps, through social media. I've been seeing more things that have been popping up. It's the time is now, and you're a big part of that change towards more access and more resources. And as you mentioned way early on in the beginning, also at a reasonable price. That's it's affordable. It's something that makes sense. It's something that works for so many different people of various backgrounds. But I imagine that's not easy, and you're trying to construct a plan and you have all these different nuances into how it's going to actually be executed. What is your advice for that entrepreneur that's trying to get their business off the ground? As somebody that's got your business flowing right now, what is your advice to others that are trying to get started, that are back where you were, step 1, step 2 of trying to launch?
Okay, I could give you a long list, but I'm gonna keep it short. So the first thing I would say is one, make that promise to yourself to be committed. That's the first thing. Is saying to yourself that I'm gonna see this through. I'm staying committed to this. 99.9% of startups fail because of lack of commitment. It's not funding, it's not competition, but people just not seeing it through. Second is, if you're doing it with someone, a teammate or a co-founder, make sure someone you trust and who is also highly driven and can also support you as well. Another thing I would say is really think about, your 3 to 5 year plan. People start organizations, kind of winging it day to day, but sit down and take the time to strategize and say, hey, what is my plan for this year? How can I scale that in year 2? What does year 3 look like? What is my exit goal? Because maybe sometimes you may want to sell your business, or maybe, it's nothing lasts forever. So you want to take all those things into consideration. And last but not least, always make sure that you're leaving an impact and understand how can your business or organization help improve the lives of others.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, there's a nice long list. I love the quick way you just ran through that. Hopefully people that are tuning in, you're taking notes. And if you missed it, rewind, catch it again. But yeah, there's a lot of things that you learned as you're going through it. What for you has been one of the biggest things that stand out that now that you wish you knew now 4 years ago, or even before that, 5-6 years ago?
I think one thing that I wish I knew back then was one, and I don't think, thank God it worked out the way it did, but actually understanding the legal structure of actually forming a LLC or corporation and tax advantages and how to handle taxes, all of that good stuff. When you start dealing with shares and, contracts and employees and other stuff, you want to know the legal aspect of it. So I bought a book that's called Venture Deals. If anyone is listening, definitely get that book. It gives you everything you need to know as far as from a legal standpoint. Also, too, if you're looking to raise money or get investors involved, you definitely want to understand what that process is like in raising capital. One thing I did is really underestimated, how hard it was to bootstrap. We bootstrapped our organization, developed all in-house, used our own money. But now we're like, hey, we want to raise funds to really scale this. But you have to pitch. You have to know how to, communicate your business. You have to give your elevate speech. You have to know who's your target audience as far as investors, right? You have to have your pitch deck ready, be in the right spaces at the right time, learn how to meet and network with the right people. It's a combination of things. And you have to really dive into that space and be confident, because you're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get a lot of people tell you that this ain't it, or you got competition. You're going to get, I don't think this is going to be effective or make money. So you really want to dive in and learn all those things, because it gives you confidence when you start getting those no's and you start getting pushback. Like, I have the right idea, I have the skills, I have the, the capabilities to do this. Let's knock it out. So those are some of the things that I wish I did learn early on, but I think it was the reason why I didn't learn it early on, because it forced me to learn it on my own, and I'm more than confident now than ever. I'm really going to spaces and representing the work that we do. So yeah, hopefully that helped.
Yeah, that was a great answer. Extremely triggering, because I definitely as you were talking, I was like, oh, why did I ask this question? I had the same issue with Planted Not Buried. Just like the LLC process is not as easy as they make it out to be. And even as you talk about pitching and getting, I am regretting asking that question. Too close to home, too soon. But no, in all seriousness, it is something that as an entrepreneur, as someone that is starting your own business, there are so many nuances to it. It's not just about the vision, the product, the programming. There's the legal side, there's the financial side, there's financial backing and sponsorships, and so much more that goes into it. What is your elevator pitch? So as you now know, and as you've experienced, it forced you, I'm sure, to have to take a step back, read. I was like taking my own notes. I need to check out that book too. But to be able to learn more about it and have more information so that you can be more prepared. Because to me, that's one of the biggest things. When you're creating something, it's your baby, and you want to make sure you know as much as you can and are as formed as possible before you're, as you're going through it, I should say, so that you're not setting yourself up for any hardships or major roadblocks as you're going through it. So thank you for shining a light on that. Lastly, I do want to just allow you to share. I know you've teased out where or the exciting things you have coming up this quarter, but I also want to allow you to share where people can check out more if they want to, and as they should be, following up to see all the great things that you're working on. Where can they follow? What's the website? What's the details for those that are looking for more information?
Absolutely. So you can follow me on Instagram, my personal Instagram at the Aaron Warrick. You can also follow us, Reju app on Instagram as well, one word. You can also follow us, therejuapp.com. That will take you to our website as well. And you can connect and get engaged, see upcoming events and things that's happening.
Yes. And I appreciate you taking time to jump in and share with us all the exciting things that you've been working on, all the great things that you've accomplished. So congrats on that. It's more to come, which is great. And the last thing I want to ask you before we wrap up, we're decently into 2023, but it's still in the first half of it. This year is going to be a year of what for you? What is this year? Personally or professionally, I should say as well.
I think this year for me is a year of really prioritizing myself. So if that means saying no more, taking the time to really focus on my self-care and the things that I love to do. So I'm prioritizing my health. This year is I'm prioritizing wealth, and wealth not just financially, but also the wealth of my friendships and relationships and companionships that I build as well. And last but not least, this year is just a year of inspiration. Like I'm ready to go out there and make big things happen and work with people who's ready to also make big things happen. So that's it for me. Manifestation, speak it to existence, and let's go.
I like it. I have been saying the same thing. It's my selfish year, but in a good way, to prioritize.
Selfish year. Say
yeah.
No. It's okay to say no.
It is. It's okay. And you need to draw healthy boundaries. And especially as somebody that's a creative mind, an entrepreneur, you have to be able to draw those boundaries of what does and doesn't work for you, because otherwise your cup is going to be empty, and you got to be able to put your own oxygen mask on first. So I love that for you. I'm excited to see this year of manifestation, prioritization, and stepping into some exciting, healthy, new changes in your life. So Aaron, thank you so much for taking time to join us here on Beyond the Headlines. It's been a pleasure having the opportunity to hear about Reju. Everybody tuning in, be sure to give a follow. Aaron's at the Aaron Warrick, and you can also check out the Reju app on social as well as rejuapp.com for more exciting changes to come. And that'll do it for here for us on Beyond the Headlines. I hope you guys have learned a lot, walked away from this conversation feeling inspired, and we will see you next time here for more with a new episode of Beyond the Headlines presented by Fox Sports Radio. Have a good one.
Only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the